Hello, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World, and I'm your host, Jargalma Tufshinjargal. On the News Mongolia today, the President of Mongolia vetoes 2024 budget law. Scholars of Mongolian studies held their regular academic meeting. Mongolia shares its experiences in increasing women's participation at decision-making levels. For the news, stay tuned. The President of Mongolia, Khurelsukh, has vetoed the 2024 budget and other related legislative proposals based on provisions of the Constitution and the law on the President. This was announced by Zandanshatar, head of the President's office.
The President emphasized that the national budget must be designed to effectively navigate potential economic challenges, increase reserves and savings, curb inflation, and maintain economic stability. He stressed the need for a more balanced, efficient, and cost-effective budget that ensures the smooth operation for citizens, businesses, and taxpayers without incurring a deficit. The President also pointed to the importance of considering external market conditions, commodity prices fluctuations, and the need to boost foreign currency reserves and reduce national debt, advocating for a counter-cyclical budget policy. In addition, the government has been instructed to present a revised version of the budget bill to Parliament by December 2024. The veto was primarily triggered by the decision to approve certain measures in the budget without adequate justification. Specifically, the changes to project costs and the decrease in government revenue without meeting the necessary conditions for budget revision were cited as violations of legal principles. Economic policy advisor Davat Atlas, speaking at a press conference, explained that Mongolia should shift to a more principle-based budgeting approach in line with changing global conditions. He noted that all budgetary indicators are interconnected and thus a full veto was necessary to ensure that the government and parliament align revenue and expenditure figures properly. The decision now rests with Parliament as it is within its jurisdiction to decide whether to accept or reject the President's veto.
The Mongolian Studies Academic Conference held in the Czech Republic provided an in-depth examination of the various dialects within the Mongolian language, as well as its relationships with other languages. The event focused not only on the Mongolian language as a broad concept, but also offered detailed discussions on specific topics. As a result, Mongolian studies proved to be a valuable field of study.
There have been many studies on words that have entered the Mongolian language from Turkish. What made this recent presentation particularly interesting was the discussion on the reverse of how many words from the Mongolian language have entered both medieval and modern Turkish languages. The presentation also explored the reverse influence, how numerous Turkish words have made their way into Mongolian. A key part of the study was a detailed analysis on how these Mongolian words entered Turkish languages, the order in which they arrived, and the historical context of their adoption.
Charles University is one of the oldest universities in Europe, and the Mongolian language department has been a part of the Institute of Asian Studies since 1976. In 2022, the department announced plans to hold an international conference for Mongolian scholars every 2 years. This conference attracted significant interest, with many young scholars actively participating.
The keynote speaker for the event is Professor Juha Jahunen, who recently arrived from Finland. He is a leading linguist in the fields of Mongolian linguistics and Mongolian Altai studies. What are the native words used in Mongolian writing? While we often categorize many of these words as foreign loanwords that have entered the Mongolian language, it remains unclear which ones are truly native. There is currently no comprehensive research on this topic. To fill this gap, we have decided to conduct a study in this area and present our findings at a later stage.
I gave a presentation on the cultural impact of foreign food names entering Mongolia.
I gave a presentation on how to train Mongolian heritage speakers at the university level, addressing the challenges we face in this area and discussing potential solutions. The presentation also highlighted ongoing research focused on new citizens and their integration into the Mongolian language and culture, exploring strategies to support heritage language maintenance and development in academic settings.
Mongolian studies play a vital role in shaping our country's foreign policy. This conference, grounded in rigorous scientific research, is instrumental in presenting Mongolia to the world, accurately and comprehensively.
The materials from this academic conference will be published in the academic journal Mongolica Provincia, which is issued by the Faculty of Asian Studies at Charles University. This provides an opportunity for the research to reach a wider audience.
The next academic conference will continue with the topic of communicative influence of the Mongolian language in the history of literature.
Mongolia is making waves on the international stage by successfully increasing women's representation and decision-making roles. Through targeted reforms and public engagement efforts, the country has not only surpassed the Asian average, but also reached the global average for women's representation in parliament, signaling a transformative shift in political dynamics.
In recent years, a study was conducted among citizens of Mongolia to gauge their support for female politicians. Results revealed that over 60% of those born before 1964 did not support female politicians. For those born between 1965 and 1980, 44% expressed similar views. However, following this year's parliamentary election, women's representation in the parliament reached more than 25%, an 8% increase from the previous election. This surpasses the Asian average and aligns with the global average.
This increase is attributed to changes in the electoral mechanism. However, this also shows that we must continue efforts to build public trust in women and enhance their participation at decision-making levels. There is still much work to be done in this area. Today's conference saw participation from numerous experts from Mongolia and abroad. Representatives from various sectors discussed and evaluated the outcomes of projects we implemented over the years. We are sharing our experiences to showcase the results of these projects to international organizations and countries worldwide.
When asked about the general perception of political representatives, many citizens described their image as older men. In recent years, however, civil society organizations and media outlets have focused on dismantling those stereotypes. For instance, the National Women's Leadership Network was established, which implemented numerous initiatives aimed at empowerment, capacity building, and strengthening the network. As a result, it has grown into a nationwide movement.
The projects implemented in this area have been perceived as positive examples internationally. However, achieving change remains a long-term challenge with persistent obstacles along the way. We are particularly interested in sharing methodologies and techniques for working with the public in this area, as well as learning from the experiences of other countries. We aim to understand the strategies and techniques used by nations with similar contexts or expertise in this field.
In Mongolia's history, only one woman has ever run for president. At that time, she received the lowest voter support with just 6.6% of the total votes. However, Mongolia is now implementing initiatives that serve as examples for other nations worldwide, showcasing successful measures to enhance women's participation in politics.
Thank you for staying with us. Here is the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Next, our program will turn our attention to foreign news, partnered with international news agencies. Germany's foreign ministry responded to Russia's top domestic security agency on Wednesday, saying it had arrested a German national accused of planning to sabotage energy facilities on orders from a Ukrainian national, saying that they were aware of the case.
We are aware of the case, and I would like to add that Russian media suggests that the arrest has recently taken place, which is not the case. The arrest took place in October, and the German consulate in St. Petersburg was informed and is in contact with Russian authorities. We are aware of low double-digit number of German citizens currently detained in Russia. She didn't give further details, citing privacy rules. The shower said that the consulate has offered consular support to the detainee and is in contact with Russian authorities. The Federal Security Service, known as FSB, said in a statement carried by Russian news agency that it detained German national Nikolai Gaiduk as he entered Russia's westernmost exclave of Kaliningrad from Poland and seized half of a liter of liquid explosives from his car. It didn't say whether Gaiduk also had Russian citizenship or a visa to enter the country. The FSB accused Gaiduk, a resident of Hamburg born in 1967, of planning acts of sabotage on orders from Ukrainian Alexander Zhorov, who also lives in Hamburg. The agency said Gaiduk was involved in an explosion at a gas distribution station in Kaliningrad in March, and that a criminal case was brought against him on charges of a terrorist attack and smuggling of explosives. A court ordered Gaiduk to be placed in pre-trial detention pending an investigation. Russian news agency Interfax reported. No other details were provided. Germany earlier this year played a central role in major East-West prisoner swap in which Russia released U.S. and German nationals it held in custody and a number of jailed Russian dissidents, while the U.S., Germany, and some other European countries freed jailed Russians.
Outgoing U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin defended the incredible role played by women in the U.S. military and explained the decision to supply Ukraine with anti-personnel landmines during a briefing in Laos on Wednesday.
Austin commented on the Biden administration approval of sending anti-personnel landmines to Ukraine, which are banned by more than 150 countries, on the sidelines of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Defense Ministers meeting in Vientiane.
What we've seen most recently is because the Russians have been so unsuccessful in the way that they have been fighting, they've kind of changed their tactics a bit, and they don't lead with their mechanized forces anymore. They lead with dismounted forces who are able to close and do things to kind of pave the way for mechanized forces. So that's what the Ukrainians are seeing right now, and they have a need for things that can help slow down that effort on the part of the Russians. They're fabricating their own anti-personnel landmines right now. The landmines that we would look to provide them would be landmines that are not persistent. You know, we can control when they would self-activate, self-detonate, and that makes it far more safer eventually than the things that they are creating on their own.
He also made remarks about the significant value of women in the U.S. military when asked about President-elect Donald Trump's pick of Pete Hegseth to serve as his defense secretary. Trump's choice of Fox News host Pete Hegseth, tapping someone largely inexperienced and untested on the global stage to take over the world's largest and most powerful military, was met with bewilderment and worry among many in Washington. Hegseth was made it clear on his show and in interviews that, like Trump, he is opposed to woke programs that promote equity and inclusion. He also has questioned the role of women in combat and advocated pardoning service members charged with war crimes. Austin joined the meetings of ASEAN defense ministers in Vientiane, where many will be looking for assurances before President-elect Donald Trump's return to power in January.
Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you on Friday with more news and updates. Goodbye.